Captain Ethan Ward had always believed that curiosity was the most powerful trait a human could have. It had guided him from the crowded, dusty streets of old Earth cities to the vast, shining colonies scattered across the stars. He had seen worlds with skies of green and oceans of silver, deserts that glowed under twin suns, and forests that sang when the wind passed through them. Yet nothing he had experienced prepared him for Aurelia Prime. The planet's surface shimmered like a jewel under its sun, a mixture of crystalline mountains and smooth, flowing rivers that reflected colors unfamiliar to the human eye. Cities built with a mix of organic and mechanical architecture spiraled upwards, with towers that seemed alive, moving subtly as if breathing. The ShortStories, the planet's inhabitants, were equally astonishing. Slender, graceful beings, their skin shimmered in hues of violet and gold, and their eyes held a depth that made Ethan feel as though he could see centuries of wisdom in a single glance. Ethan's ship had landed just outside the capital, a city that sprawled across the valley with bridges of light connecting floating platforms. The humans had been invited for a diplomatic mission, one meant to strengthen ties between Earth's colonies and the ShortStories homeworld. To Ethan, it was more than duty. It was an opportunity to see if humanity could truly stand among the stars as equals, not through conquest or power, but through wit, empathy, and courage. The moment he stepped onto the planet's surface, Ethan felt a mix of awe and anticipation. He adjusted his uniform, the badge of the United Earth Federation gleaming in the sunlight, and took a deep breath. The air smelled faintly sweet, like blossoms he had never encountered. Around him, ShortStories citizens moved with elegance, their gestures precise, their expressions serene. Unlike humans, they did not rush or stumble. Every movement seemed intentional, a dance in time with some invisible rhythm. "Captain Ward," a soft voice called. Ethan turned to see a ShortStories guide approaching, moving as though floating rather than walking. "I am Lysara. I will accompany you to the royal palace. The princess awaits you." As they ascended into the city, Lysara explained the history of the ShortStories and their governance. "Our princess," she said, "is unlike any other leader in our history. She is young, curious, and wise beyond her years. She has chosen to observe humans personally rather than through reports. Few visitors have ever been granted an audience with her." The thought of meeting a member of the ShortStories royal family was exhilarating, but he reminded himself to stay calm. His role was not just to impress the princess, but to represent humanity with dignity and intelligence. When they reached the palace, a structure that seemed to grow naturally from the crystalline cliffs themselves, Ethan was struck speechless. The walls shimmered with light, reflecting patterns that changed as the sun moved across the sky. Gardens floated in midair, with streams of water twisting and curving like liquid glass. And in the center, standing on a raised platform, was Princess Lyra. She was breathtaking. Her long, iridescent hair flowed like liquid silver, and her eyes were large, deep pools of violet that seemed to pierce through Ethan without judgment, yet with a quiet curiosity. She wore a robe that shimmered with soft light, moving as she did, giving the impression of gentle flames dancing across her form. Ethan bowed deeply, careful not to overstep any protocol. "Captain Ward," she said, her voice melodic but firm, "you are the human who claims to represent your species. I have been told much about your people. Let us see if what you say is true." He had faced dangers in uncharted space, negotiated with alien traders, and solved crises that required calm thinking and moral clarity. But this encounter felt different. It was a test of humanity itself, and he was determined to meet it. "I am honored, Princess Lyra," he said carefully. "Humans have long admired the ShortStories. We come not to conquer, but to understand, to learn, and to share. I hope to show that our species, while different, has its strengths and virtues. Nothing harmful, but enough to see if humans act with wisdom and grace." Ethan had to retrieve the orbs without dropping them, while also responding to the children's riddles and questions. It was a test of intelligence, dexterity, and patience. He moved carefully, smiling at the children, answering their riddles with thoughtful humor, and handing the orbs back without a single mishap. Princess Lyra watched silently, her head tilted slightly, a trace of a smile forming on her lips. "You are careful," she said afterward, "and you speak to them with respect. That is unusual for humans. Then perhaps there is more to your species than I expected." While the puzzles seemed alien in design, Ethan applied human ingenuity, thinking outside the obvious patterns and even combining techniques from different cultures he had studied. Hours passed, but he solved each challenge, often surprising the Solistari observers with methods they had not anticipated. Princess Lyra's eyes followed him constantly, her curiosity growing into admiration. "You approach problems differently," she noted. "Not with haste, not with pride, but with thoughtfulness. That is refreshing." It was the mutual recognition of two intelligent beings, each curious about the other, each testing and learning without fear or pretense. "You have handled yourself well today, Captain Ward," Lyra said softly. "But this is only the beginning. Tomorrow will bring greater challenges. The Council wishes to see if humans possess the qualities necessary for partnership, not just in diplomacy, but in life itself. Not for honor or glory, but to show that humans are worthy partners in thought, in courage, and in heart." In any case, she had noticed qualities in humans that her people had long overlooked, qualities that were not measured in strength or intelligence alone, but in creativity, empathy, and the courage to act rightly in uncertain circumstances. As night fell, the city glowed like a constellation brought to Earth. Ethan stood on the balcony of his assigned quarters, gazing at the floating lights and the vast forests beyond. He knew tomorrow would test him further, and he welcomed it. Humanity had much to prove, and he would not let it fail. Somewhere in the palace, Princess Lyra watched the stars as well, thinking of the human who dared to stand among the Solistari without fear, who spoke with wisdom and treated others with care. He had impressed her today, but more than that, he had sparked a curiosity she had not felt in centuries. What would tomorrow bring? For Ethan, the adventure had just begun, and Aurelia Prime promised challenges unlike any he had faced before. Yet in the quiet moments, he allowed himself a small thought of wonder. Perhaps humanity's greatest strength was not in what they could build or conquer, but in their courage, their curiosity, and the willingness to connect with others, alien or human, on the level of mind and heart. The stars above twinkled silently, and Ethan felt ready. Tomorrow he would meet the Council. Tomorrow he would face trials designed to test the very essence of humanity. But tonight, he had taken the first step, and Princess Lyra had noticed. That small spark of recognition, though unspoken, was perhaps more powerful than any decree or ceremony. And as he drifted to sleep, he felt something extraordinary. The possibility that humans, often underestimated, could shine not through force, but through ingenuity, empathy, and the courage to be themselves in a galaxy that expected otherwise. The next morning, the sun rose over Aurelia Prime, spilling golden light across the crystalline towers and floating gardens. Captain Ethan Ward stood at the palace entrance, adjusting his uniform and straightening his posture. Today, the real test would begin. The Solistari Council had summoned him, and their trials were rumored to be both challenging and subtle. Unlike the children's games and the puzzles he had faced yesterday, these trials were designed to measure not only intelligence but also moral judgment, empathy, and problem-solving in real-life scenarios. Lysara approached him, her movements smooth and deliberate. "The Council awaits, Captain Ward. Remember, they will observe not only your decisions but the reasoning behind them. The human approach may differ from our own, yet that is what they wish to see." The room was circular, with walls that shimmered in soft light, displaying holographic images of planets, star systems, and historical events. At the center, a semicircular platform held 7 members of the Council, each radiating calm authority. Their eyes, deep pools of violet and gold, seemed to assess him with infinite patience. Princess Lyra stood slightly behind the Council, her expression curious but unreadable. Ethan gave a respectful bow. "Captain Ward," began the eldest counselor, his voice like a soft wind, "you are here to demonstrate the qualities of your species. Today, you will face scenarios that test judgment, creativity, and the ability to cooperate. We will observe how you think, how you interact, and how you respect others. The human must propose a solution that preserves the plants while supporting the needs of the local inhabitants." Ethan studied the simulation carefully. He noticed that the river's flow could be redirected using the local technology without harming the natural habitat. However, it would require cooperation between the settlers, who had differing opinions about how to use the land, and the engineers who were hesitant to risk new methods. He addressed the council calmly. "First, we must understand the priorities of the settlers and the needs of the plants. Then we create a plan that respects both. Humans often solve problems by communication and collaboration. I would organize a discussion between the groups, find common ground, and propose a solution that preserves the environment while respecting the settlers' wishes." The simulation continued, introducing unexpected complications. A sudden storm threatened to flood part of the settlement. Ethan adjusted his plan in real time, directing evacuation of the endangered areas while ensuring that the rare plants were protected using portable containment devices. By the end, the settlement was safe and the plants were preserved. You approach the problem not only logically but with care for all involved, the eldest counselor said. That is unusual. Most species would prioritize efficiency or authority over empathy. Humans believe that respect and collaboration lead to stronger solutions. Failure would mean breakdown of cooperation and mistrust. Ethan began by observing the ambassadors closely, noting patterns in their gestures and inflections. He spoke slowly, using basic phrases he had learned, and supplemented them with universally understood signals like pointing, offering objects, and mirroring their movements. He asked questions to ensure understanding and proposed compromises that satisfied both parties. Hours passed, yet Ethan remained patient, never showing frustration. By the end of the exercise, the ambassadors were smiling, nodding, and shaking hands, signaling that an agreement had been reached. Princess Lyra's voice broke the silence. You communicate differently than we expected, Captain. You rely on observation, patience, and persistence, yet you succeed where others might fail due to pride or rigidity. That is impressive. They introduced the third scenario, more abstract than the previous ones. Ethan was shown a series of images depicting complex social interactions, humans, ShortStories, and other species interacting in various situations. He was asked to predict outcomes and propose ways to improve harmony. Ethan studied each image carefully. In one, a group of young ShortStories argued over resources, while others remained silent. He suggested encouraging discussion and shared responsibility. In another, two groups of humans and ShortStories misinterpreted each other's intentions. He proposed an educational exercise to foster mutual understanding. The human approach is unusual, a counselor said. You think about consequences, not dominance. You emphasize collaboration and foresight. A robotic drone began presenting unexpected challenges, shifting platforms, sudden changes in resource availability, and ethical dilemmas requiring immediate decisions. Ethan adapted quickly, using observation, reasoning, and negotiation to guide virtual settlers and ensure the safety and well-being of all parties. Lyra watched him intently. Each choice he made, each solution he offered demonstrated qualities that resonated deeply with her. Intelligence, patience, creativity, courage, and above all, respect for life and thought. She began to see why the humans had survived in a universe filled with dangers, despite being physically weaker than many species. Their strength lay in their minds and hearts. The day ended with the council calling Ethan forward. Captain Ward, said the eldest counselor, you have shown qualities that surpass our expectations. While our species often values precision, strength, and knowledge, you demonstrate creativity, empathy, and perseverance. These are qualities rare even among advanced civilizations. Humanity is not perfect, but we strive to learn, to understand, and to act rightly. That is our strength. I am honored, Princess. I represent my people, but also myself. We hope to show that humans are partners, not just in diplomacy, but in thought and understanding. That is rare. The trials had been intense, but he had maintained composure, thought creatively, and acted with care. More importantly, he had demonstrated that humanity's value lay not in brute force or advanced technology alone, but in the ability to think, empathize, and collaborate across differences. As he walked back to his quarters with Lysara, he noticed small gestures of respect from citizens and officials alike. They were curious about the human who had handled every challenge with calm determination and inventive thinking. Even the palace staff whispered about him with admiration. In the quiet of the palace gardens that evening, Ethan reflected on the day. The trials had tested every part of his mind: logic, ethics, creativity, and communication. Yet the most important lesson he realized was simple. Humans succeed when they respect life, listen carefully, and work together. That philosophy had served him well in the stars and had earned him the notice of an alien princess and her council. Lyra found him there, observing the bioluminescent flowers that glowed softly in the evening. She approached silently and said, Captain Ward, do you know why I watch humans so closely? I watch because sometimes, in unexpected ways, humans show courage, wisdom, and thoughtfulness that even our people cannot match. Today, you have done that. I am impressed. I hope to continue showing that humanity is capable of great things, not by force, but by intelligence, empathy, and action. Perhaps humans have more to teach us than I realized. And Princess Lyra had noticed that potential. Tomorrow would bring new tests, but tonight was proof that thoughtfulness, empathy, and courage were universal strengths. Humanity had taken the first step toward earning not only respect, but the possibility of partnership on this alien world. And for Ethan Ward, that was more rewarding than any victory he could have imagined. The morning on Aurelia Prime began quietly, with a soft violet mist floating above the rivers and forests. Captain Ethan Ward stood on the balcony of the palace quarters, watching the light shift across the crystalline city. He had expected more trials today, but there was a palpable tension in the air, a sense that the planet itself was holding its breath. Lysara arrived silently, as always, her movements smooth and deliberate. "Captain Ward," she said, her voice calm, "the Council requests your presence. There is an unexpected situation, and your skills may be needed in ways beyond the usual trials. The rivers are rising faster than expected. Settlements along the northern rivers may be affected. The Council wishes for guidance. They trust your judgment." The stakes were higher, and the observers were more critical. More importantly, he had to act with both efficiency and empathy. He followed Lysara to the council chamber, where the 7 members already awaited. Princess Lyra stood to the side, her expression both curious and concerned. "Captain Ward," the eldest counselor began, "a natural phenomenon has caused the rivers in the northern valleys to rise rapidly. Settlements may be in danger. We ask for your guidance. How should we act?" "First," he said calmly, "we need to understand the timeline and severity of the flooding. We cannot assume uniform impact. Some areas will need immediate evacuation, others temporary support. We must also consider preserving the ecosystem and the local species that rely on the river." "I propose dividing the response into 3 parts," Ethan continued. "Assessment, coordination, and action. Teams must be dispatched to gather real-time data. Then communication must be established with all settlements to understand their needs and capabilities. Finally, resources, boats, temporary shelters, and food should be distributed according to priority. We should also use Celestari technology to reinforce riverbanks where possible without harming the natural flow. That flexibility often makes us effective, even in unfamiliar circumstances." Lysara and a team of Celestari engineers accompanied him, their eyes wide with curiosity and cautious optimism. As the shuttle descended, the scale of the situation became clear. Water from upstream was rushing down the rivers faster than usual, and low-lying settlements were at risk. Families were evacuating, carrying what they could, and the local wildlife fled higher ground. Ethan's mind raced. He had to prioritize both people and the ecosystem, balancing immediate safety with long-term preservation. "Here," Ethan said, pointing to a cluster of settlements, "we need to deploy temporary levees along the riverbanks using the portable barriers. We can evacuate those in immediate danger while allowing some areas to flood harmlessly, preserving plant and animal life. The priority is saving lives, but we should minimize ecological damage." They worked seamlessly, with Ethan adapting instructions as new challenges appeared. A sudden shift in the river blocked paths and panicked residents. His ability to remain calm and think creatively inspired confidence in everyone. Princess Lyra, observing from a distance, was quietly amazed. Humans had always been underestimated in her world, seen as fragile and unrefined. Yet here was a man whose mind combined practicality with empathy, whose every decision reflected both intelligence and care. Hours passed. The floodwaters rose, but thanks to Ethan's strategies, casualties were avoided. Families were safely evacuated, animals guided to higher ground, and the environment suffered minimal harm. Temporary barriers held, and the settlements remained largely intact. At one point, a sudden obstacle appeared. A key bridge connecting 2 towns was at risk of collapse, and without it, supplies could not reach those in need. The Celestari engineers debated the problem, suggesting a cautious delay, but Ethan had another idea. "We can use a modular transport system," he said, gesturing to a portable platform design. "We can ferry resources across the river in sections, maintaining the flow of supplies while engineers reinforce the bridge. It is faster and ensures no settlement is left isolated." Ethan coordinated teams, communicated with local leaders, and monitored the situation with a calm intensity that seemed to inspire everyone. Princess Lyra watched silently. She realized that humanity's strength was not physical prowess or advanced technology, but the ability to solve problems creatively, adapt quickly, and act decisively while considering the well-being of all. Ethan embodied these qualities, and she found herself respecting him more than ever. As evening fell, the waters began to recede. The crisis was not entirely over, but the immediate danger had passed. Families returned to their homes, the wildlife moved back into its habitat, and the settlements remained intact. Ethan took a moment to breathe, standing on a hill overlooking the northern valleys. The sun set behind the crystalline mountains, casting golden light over the rivers. He felt satisfaction, not from personal glory, but from knowing that people and nature had been saved through careful thought and collaboration. Lysara approached him. "Captain Ward, the Council and Princess Lyra wish to speak with you." "They are impressed." Princess Lyra stepped forward, her expression a mixture of curiosity, respect, and something softer, perhaps admiration. "You have exceeded all expectations, Captain Ward," she said. "You acted decisively, yet with care. You solved problems that even our experienced engineers debated for hours. Humans are remarkable." "I only acted as any human would when faced with responsibility. We think creatively, work together, and value life. That is our way. That is rare in any being, no matter how advanced." Ethan walked alongside Lyra, the air filled with the scent of bioluminescent flowers and the gentle hum of alien insects. "Captain Ward," Lyra began, her voice quiet, "today you have shown qualities that even we, with all our history and technology, find rare. I am impressed. Humans have much to learn, but we also have strengths. We solve problems not by force, but by thinking, observing, and acting with care. That is how we thrive across the stars. It is my hope that humans and Solistari can learn from each other. Strength lies not in dominance, but in understanding, collaboration, and respect." He realized that true strength came not from weapons or power, but from intelligence, empathy, and the courage to act rightly. Princess Lyra finally spoke, her tone thoughtful. "Captain Ward, I look forward to the next trials. Today you have shown what humans can do in extreme circumstances. Tomorrow will reveal even more about your species, I think, and perhaps about yourself." As he prepared for rest, Ethan gazed once more at the northern valleys, where people and nature were safe thanks to careful planning and teamwork. He knew tomorrow would bring new trials, but tonight was proof that humans could rise to challenges in ways that inspired even the most advanced alien civilization. He allowed himself one thought before sleep claimed him. Perhaps humanity's greatest strength was not its physical power, but its courage, intelligence, and the ability to care deeply while thinking creatively. On Aurelia Prime, that strength had been seen, appreciated, and respected. And that was the beginning of a remarkable journey, one that would not only test Ethan's skills, but also the potential of humanity itself in the eyes of Princess Lyra and her people. The morning air on Aurelia Prime was cool and crisp, carrying a faint scent of flowering trees and flowing rivers. Captain Ethan Ward stood in the palace courtyard, his mind already racing ahead to the trials the council had promised. After yesterday's unexpected crisis, he knew the challenges ahead would not only test his intelligence, but also his creativity, patience, and the very essence of what it meant to be human. Lysara approached silently, her usual calm presence reassuring him. "Captain Ward, the Council has prepared a new series of trials for you today. They are designed to challenge not only your problem-solving, but also your ability to understand complex social and ethical situations. Princess Lyra has expressed particular interest in observing your decisions closely. I am ready to face whatever comes." "Captain Ward," began the eldest counselor, "today's trials are designed to test how humans respond to situations where both intellect and empathy are required. You will encounter challenges that have no simple answers. We will observe not only your solutions, but also the thought process behind them." Humans had always been valued for their creativity and problem-solving abilities, but today, he had to demonstrate that humanity's strength also lay in compassion and foresight. The first scenario appeared as a holographic projection in the center of the room. It depicted a small colony of Solistari in a remote valley, facing a dilemma. Two neighboring villages relied on a single water source, but recent changes in the river's flow threatened to cut one village off completely. The simulation required Ethan to devise a solution that ensured both villages had access to water while also preserving the local ecosystem. Ethan studied the projection carefully. He noticed subtle differences in the terrain, the placement of natural reservoirs, and the potential for small engineering solutions that could redirect water without harming the environment. He turned to the council. The solution is to create a shared system that distributes water fairly, using small, adjustable channels that do not disrupt the natural flow. Both villages should participate in maintaining the system, ensuring cooperation and mutual respect. This approach preserves the ecosystem while meeting human and ShortStories needs. Humans understand that long-term solutions require thinking about all affected parties, not just immediate results. Cooperation and fairness are essential for sustainability. The second trial was even more intricate. Ethan was presented with a scenario involving communication between multiple species, humans, ShortStories, and another alien race previously unknown to him. The species had conflicting needs regarding shared resources on a small planet. Misunderstandings had already caused tension, and the simulation required Ethan to propose a plan that would prevent conflict while encouraging collaboration. Ethan observed the behavior of each group, noting cultural differences, preferred methods of communication, and potential areas of misunderstanding. He realized that a successful solution required not just negotiation, but also education, helping each group understand the perspectives of the others. He addressed the council. The key is mutual understanding. Each group must learn about the others' needs and limitations. I would organize a series of workshops where representatives explain their requirements and work together to find compromises. Incentives for collaboration and shared success will encourage cooperation. This approach reduces tension and fosters trust, rather than imposing solutions through authority. The simulation advanced, showing positive results as the species began collaborating, sharing resources, and finding common ground. The third trial presented a more personal challenge. Ethan was asked to interact directly with Princess Lyra in a scenario designed to test leadership, communication, and mutual respect. The simulation projected potential conflicts within the palace itself, advisors giving conflicting advice, misunderstandings arising from different priorities, and ethical dilemmas involving the use of technology. Ethan listened carefully as Lyra posed questions and hypothetical situations. He responded thoughtfully, weighing the interests of all involved, proposing solutions that encouraged dialogue and understanding, and demonstrating the ability to make decisions while considering both ethics and practicality. Lyra observed silently for a while, then spoke. "Captain Ward, you are patient, even when faced with complexity. You listen before acting, consider multiple perspectives, and seek solutions that respect all parties. This is rare." One simulation required him to manage the distribution of limited resources in the event of a natural emergency. Another involved resolving a disagreement between two departments within the palace over the interpretation of ShortStories law. In each case, Ethan applied the same principles: careful observation, creative thinking, collaboration, and empathy. By mid-afternoon, the council seemed visibly impressed. Princess Lyra remained nearby, her interest growing with each decision Ethan made. She had watched many beings attempt these trials, but none had displayed the combination of intelligence, patience, and ethical reasoning that he showed. As the final trial approached, a more complex scenario appeared. A distant settlement on Oralia Prime faced both environmental challenges and social tension. Ethan had to coordinate aid, mediate disputes, and design long-term solutions that would benefit both the people and the environment. He began by assessing the situation carefully, listening to the concerns of the settlers, and observing the environment. He realized that a flexible approach was required, combining immediate relief with long-term planning. He proposed temporary shelters and resource distribution to ensure immediate safety, while also designing programs to educate settlers on sustainable practices and collaborative decision-making. The council watched intently as Ethan implemented his plan in the simulation. He delegated responsibilities efficiently, encouraged input from the settlers, and adjusted strategies as unexpected obstacles arose. The simulation concluded successfully, showing improved relationships, preserved resources, and empowered communities. Princess Lyra stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. Captain Ward, your performance today surpasses expectations. You act with intelligence, creativity, and consideration for all involved. You show leadership not by authority, but by guidance and respect. That is extraordinary. That is a principle humans apply in all aspects of life. These are strengths we value greatly. Humans often relied on collaboration, creativity, and empathy to overcome challenges, and today the Scifi had witnessed it firsthand. As the sun began to set, Ethan and Lyra walked through the palace gardens, the soft glow of bioluminescent flowers illuminating their path. "Captain Ward," Lyra said, her voice gentle, "I have observed many species, yet few have demonstrated what you have today. You think beyond immediate needs, consider ethical implications, and act with care. That is inspiring. We may not be the strongest physically, but we strive to act wisely and justly. That is our way. I look forward to seeing how you will continue to rise to the challenges ahead." As night fell, the stars appeared above Aurelia Prime, mirrored in the reflective surfaces of the crystalline towers. Ethan gazed at them thoughtfully, realizing that the journey ahead would be filled with even greater tests, challenges, and opportunities. Yet he felt ready, knowing that humanity's strength lay not in physical might, but in the mind, heart, and the ability to collaborate across differences. Princess Lyra looked at him, a soft smile on her lips. "Captain Ward, tomorrow will bring trials unlike any you have faced so far, but I believe you are ready. Humanity has shown remarkable promise, and I am curious to see how far you will go. That is how we thrive." Humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun, and Aurelia Prime had become a testament to what humans could achieve when they combined intelligence, empathy, and courage. And as he watched the stars twinkle above, he knew that tomorrow's trials would push him even further. Yet he also knew that with careful thought, collaboration, and respect for life, humanity could meet any challenge, even those set by the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. For Ethan Ward, the adventure was far from over, but today had proven one thing. Humans could rise above expectations, inspire trust, and earn respect without resorting to force. That was a strength the Scifi and the universe would not forget. The day began on Aurelia Prime with a soft golden light filtering through the crystalline towers and reflecting off the rivers. Captain Ethan Ward felt a mix of anticipation and calm determination. Today, the Council had promised, would reveal not only the final phase of his trials, but also the future of humanity's relationship with the Scifi. Lysara appeared at the balcony, her usual graceful presence grounding him. "Captain Ward, the Council and Princess Lyra await you. Today's challenges will require every skill you have demonstrated and perhaps even more. You are ready, but they will push your ingenuity and judgment to their limits." The 7 counselors were present, their faces calm yet expectant, a quiet tension filling the room. "Captain Ward," began the eldest counselor, "today's challenge is a real-world scenario, unlike the simulations and controlled trials of previous days. A natural event threatens multiple settlements across Aurelia Prime, and their survival depends on wise planning, collaboration, and rapid problem-solving. We will observe your decisions closely, as will Princess Lyra. Your actions today may define the trust between your species and ours for generations." This was the culmination, a test of human creativity, leadership, and moral reasoning. "I will do everything in my power to ensure safety, fairness, and cooperation," he said calmly. The holographic map displayed the northern, eastern, and central valleys of Aurelia Prime. Rivers had risen unexpectedly due to changes in snowmelt from the crystalline mountains, threatening settlements, farmlands, and delicate ecosystems. Immediate action was required to prevent widespread disruption. Ethan began his assessment, carefully noting the geography, population distribution, and available resources. Unlike the simulations, this was real. People's lives and the planet's environment depended on his decisions. He divided the response into 3 key stages: assessment, coordination, and implementation. For assessment, he sent teams, including Scifi engineers and human volunteers, to gather real-time data on water levels, structural stability, and the needs of the settlements. For coordination, Ethan established communication channels linking local leaders, settlers, and emergency teams. Using both Scifi technology and human ingenuity, he created a simple yet effective system to relay information, ensuring that everyone could understand updates and instructions. Finally, for implementation, he proposed a combination of temporary structures, careful resource distribution, and ecological protection measures. Portable barriers and elevated walkways were deployed to protect settlements, while water channels were adjusted to preserve local plant and animal life. As the teams moved into action, Ethan adapted constantly to unforeseen challenges. A sudden increase in water flow in one valley, a fallen tree blocking a river pathway, and panicked settlers unsure of the safest routes. He approached each problem calmly, thinking creatively and considering the needs of all involved. Princess Lyra observed closely, her eyes following every decision. She noted how Ethan combined rapid decision-making with thoughtfulness, never rushing and never disregarding anyone's needs. His leadership inspired trust and cooperation, bridging differences between humans and ShortStories volunteers. Hours passed, yet Ethan remained focused. Even when the most complex situations arose, such as coordinating aid to settlements separated by fractured terrain, he found innovative solutions. He designed temporary floating platforms to transport essential supplies across flooded areas and encouraged volunteers to work in shifts to maximize efficiency without causing fatigue. At one point, he noticed a community struggling to relocate livestock while keeping the fragile ecosystem intact. Ethan quickly devised a system of modular enclosures that could be moved easily, allowing animals to reach higher ground without damaging the environment. The locals followed his instructions carefully, impressed by the clarity and practicality of his methods. The council watched in silence, clearly impressed. Princess Lyra stepped closer, observing not just the strategies but also the human qualities displayed: patience, empathy, and ingenuity. She realized that humans had a unique combination of traits that allowed them to thrive in situations others might find impossible. By evening, the immediate danger had passed. All settlements were safe, the rivers were under control, and the ecosystems remained largely undisturbed. People, both ShortStories and human volunteers, worked together seamlessly, their coordination a testament to the effectiveness of Ethan's leadership. The council called Ethan forward. "Captain Ward," the eldest counselor said, "your performance today has demonstrated qualities that are exceptional even among advanced civilizations. You have guided multiple communities through a real crisis, showing intelligence, creativity, and compassion. Humanity's potential is remarkable, and your actions today confirm it. Captain Ward, I have watched many beings in my lifetime. Few have shown the combination of skill, patience, and thoughtfulness that you display. Today, you have proven not only the capability of humans, but also the depth of their character. I am genuinely impressed. Humans may be physically limited compared to other species, but we thrive through collaboration, ingenuity, and care for others. That is our greatest strength. That combination is rare. I trust you. That trust is the foundation for something important. I also believe that humans and ShortStories can learn from each other, grow together, and achieve far more in partnership than alone. That is unusual. I ask this because I believe our partnership could benefit both our peoples, and because I value you personally. Captain Ward, I am impressed. I promise to honor this partnership with thought, care, and collaboration, for the benefit of both our peoples and for ourselves. Humans, they realized, possessed a unique strength that could unite civilizations without coercion or conflict. Princess Lyra extended her hand, and Ethan took it gently, their eyes meeting in mutual understanding. The gesture symbolized more than a personal bond. It represented a promise of alliance, cooperation, and shared growth between humans and ShortStories. As the sun set over Aurelia Prime, the palace gardens glowed softly with bioluminescent flora. Families of ShortStories and human volunteers worked together to restore minor damage from the earlier crises, laughing and sharing stories. The air was filled with hope, respect, and curiosity. Ethan and Lyra walked side by side, observing the collaboration and harmony around them. Captain Ward, Lyra said, her voice calm yet filled with warmth, your people may be physically small, yet they achieve great things through thought, care, and courage. You have shown me why humanity is remarkable. Together, we can do more than either species alone. Ethan felt a quiet pride, not for himself alone, but for humanity as a whole. They had proven that strength did not come from dominance, wealth, or physical power, but from ingenuity, empathy, and courage. Humanity had earned respect, admiration, and trust, not through force, but through thought, heart, and action. As night deepened, Ethan looked at Lyra. Princess, today was the culmination of our trials. Tomorrow, the work continues, but I feel confident that humans and Solistari can achieve great things together. Your people's potential is extraordinary, and I am glad to share this path with you. And in doing so, he had forged a bond that promised a brighter future for both species. As they stood together under the stars, Captain Ethan Ward and Princess Lyra gazed toward the horizon. The challenges of tomorrow awaited, but humanity's place among the stars had been affirmed. They would face the future not as separate species, but as partners united by respect, understanding, and shared purpose. And so, on Aurelia Prime, a human and an alien princess began a journey together, a journey that celebrated the best of humanity, proving that thought, heart, and courage could transcend worlds, inspire trust, and forge bonds that no obstacle could break.